Oh yeah, we gotta talk. Oh, it's okay. We're talking about Ezra Pound. Almost forgot.
Let's start with.
You know, I just published a 9,000 word essay about Ezra Pound, and it was all about how I haven't you haven't got to the end yet. It was all about how I haven't started Ezra Pound. I was like, all right, my point was, I need to. I just need to get ready to understand Ezra Pound. So now I think I'm ready.
You're ready. I just found this quote that I wrote that I had from my grad school notebook. He had this poem before the cantos that he wrote. He's still talking about Daphne. I guess I don't know how long he was obsessed with this, but
Who was?
Pound.
Pound was talking about Daphne?
It's called The Tree.
Yeah.
And the last, well, it's I can't remember the name of the form, where it like starts with the same line that it ends with. Looks like a poetic form thing. Shit, I don't know what it's called, but the way it ends, he says, "I stood," and this is you. This is what you've been doing, for the last 2 weeks up in this tent in the woods. I stood still and was a tree, and I stood still and was a tree in the woods, and many a new thing understood. That before was like folly on my head or something. It's just about him like standing still in the woods and like becoming a tree.
Okay, but
and that's how he's like understanding things.
But do you know what the Daphne story is?
No, you gotta tell me.
It's one of the first stories in Ovid. I think it's Apollo is chasing her down and trying to rape her, and then she turns into a tree.
Doesn't she turn into a...
Did you hit that first part? It's only been up for 15 minutes.
All right.
No, you didn't?
She turns into a tree.
See, look. Apollo was in love with Daphne. Look, this is like in book 1. And then, then Cupid implanted in Daphne's bosom an arrow that made her repel from him. And then put one in Apollo that made him obsessed with her.
Right.
And Phoebus, that's Apollo, was once filled with desire, but Daphne fled from the very thought of the lover. She joyed in the forest lairs, in the spoils of captive beasts, like the virgin goddess Diana. This is so crazy, bro. I've been going deep on this stuff. Binding her carelessly flowing locks in a simple headband. And then basically, she goes stubbornly single. She'd roam through the woodlands without concern for the meaning of marriage or love or physical union. And then her dad would be like, "You owe me a son, my daughter." And she would say, or else he would say, "Now, when are you going to give me a grandson?" And the marriage's torches meant nothing to Diana. Okay, this is like one of the first stories of Ovid. So this is right after the creation. So why is this so early? Blushes of shame would spread over her cheeks, and she lovingly clinged to her father's neck. She'd say to him, "Darling father, I want to remain a virgin forever. Please let me." Diana's father allowed that. And then keeps going. Phoebus caught sight of her, fell in love, longed to possess her. Okay, going. He's chasing him. Stop. I see. Stop. Stop, dear Daphne. I beg you, stop. I'm not an enemy. Please, come here.
It's every man's first line.
But this is so many early myths, but I'm going to explain why. And then they have pity, blah, blah, blah. Her legs are in the brambles. I see brambles. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Impetuous girl, you have no idea who you're running from. That's why you're running so fast. Listen, I am master of Delphi. I'm very important. My father is Jupiter.
Daddy.
I can reveal the past, the present, and the future. I'm the Lord. Yo.
Does it work?
Do you know, I'm the greatest novelist of our time.
You don't know who you're running from.
You know what? Healing is my invention. He's like, dude, I invented healing. Apollo did.
Damn.
The world invokes me as capital H helper. This is him chasing Daphne, trying to convince him. And I am the one who dispenses the herbs with the power to cure. Alas, no herbs have the power to cure the disease of my love. Oh. Okay, he keeps going. And then basically, look, I see help, father. These are all shorts. Oh, this is just the end right here. If rivers have the power over nature, mar the body which made me admire too well by changing my form. Obviously, metamorphosis are all changing forms. She hardly ended her prayer when a heavy numbness came over her body. Her soft white bosom was ringed in a layer of bark. Her hair was turned into foliage, her arms into branches. The feet that had run so nimbly were sunk into sluggish roots. Her head was confined to a treetop, and all that remained of her was her beauty. Tree though she was, Apollo still loved her. This is Ezra Pound. Caressing her trunk with his hand, he could feel her heart still fluttering. Under the new bark, seizing the branches as though they were limbs in his arms embrace, he pressed his lips to the wood, but the wood still shrank from his knees. Phoebus, that's Apollo, said to her, "Since you cannot be mine in wedlock, you must at least be Apollo's tree. It is you who will always be twined in my hair. On my tuneful lyre and my quiver of arrows, the generals of Rome shall be wreathed to you." Blah, blah, and then on the side of Augustus's gates, your tree shall stand sentry. Whoa, tree stands sentry, faithfully guarding the crown of oak leaves hanging between them. As I, with my hair that is never cut, am eternally youthful, so you with your evergreen leaves are for glory and praise everlasting. Apollo the healer was done. With a wave of new-formed branches, the laurel agreed, and seemed to be nodding her head. In the treetop. And the laurel tree, too. The laurel tree.
A lot of people call oak, oak is like the frame of civilization.
Right.
Because ships were made out of it, like, so much shit was made out of it. It was like the tree.
Cities.
We don't have a chance without the oak tree.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. Because maybe I should, so actually you should spit any type of Ezra Pound minutia. So you study with Ben Lerner what years? I could still be a real interview dude.
Ben Lerner, 2012 to 2014.
2012 to 2014.
It was his second ever
When did he drop at Todd Station? 11?
Like right before that, yeah.
Damn, he just dropped at Todd Station, got the immediate gig at Brooklyn College. Where the fuck is Brooklyn? Why didn't Brooklyn College call me, dude?
Well, the 3 poetry books that came before that probably had more
of course, yeah. Right.
Mean Free Path.
So he was already teaching there when he bombed that?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't remember.
So how old were you?
But the reason we...
Did you go right after undergrad?
No, I waited 4 or 5 years. Wasn't smart enough for that. But the reason that we were excited is because of his books of poetry, not because
Todd Station is a banger.
Of course. But we were not excited to study with this poet guy.
My new thing is just standing Ben Lerner hard.
Yeah,
I feel like
dude, I just saw yesterday. He reads or at least he subscribed via email.
To your stack?
Yeah.
Let's go.
I know. Well, and also I want to sleep on.
Are we gonna Patreon this? I want to tell my Ben Lerner story.
On Anselm Berrigan, who's like poetry royalty, the son of Ted Berrigan and Alice Notley. I studied with him too, and he's on it too, which is amazing.
On the stack?
Yeah. Now I'm nervous. I'm like, I gotta fucking step it up.
Let's go, bro.
I gotta step it up.
Stack is a revolution, dude. I swear to God, bro. It's like I don't even know if I have critical information I need the people to hear. I'm trying to wait around for I don't know.
No,
I have my whole anti-magazine rant. I don't really understand what magazines are anymore.
Look, if they, being, who even has integrity? Harper's, N+1?
No.
Narrative magazine? No, I'm just kidding. What if they're lucky enough to, find you when you're ovulating, you know what I mean? And they, catch the essay.
Right.
Good for them. But, you can't structure your mind output around whatever.
No, but that's sick. So you're studying with Ben Lerner, and Ben Lerner would talk about Ezra Pound a lot. Is that what it is?
He would talk about Pound. Marjorie Wellish was also at Brooklyn College. She was the real witchy genius boss mind of the place. But no, I was reading this essay about how a lot of what's happening in the cantos is Pound trying to talk about or theorize a sexual religion of nature.
Okay.
And then this is a connection that I was trying to make today in my head in preparation for this pod, which was that the energy, the female energy that he's talking about in these cantos, and that he's basing off of metamorphosis and all this. So she turns into a tree, right? Mm-hmm. And a tree is something that's constantly regenerating, and that's how he saw an endless cycle of regeneration.
Yeah.
And that's how he saw female sexuality, I think, or just femaleness,
fecundity.
Yes, and he
springtime,
uses
indwelling spirit of springtime.
Wild variation of verdant, verdun, some
This is so relevant.
Always dropping some kind of weird use of a word,
the essence of
but in the
greenery.
moon tonight, he was men are they have sun energy, women have moon energy, but a man cannot be said to really have knowledge without if he's a virgin, and there's only one way to obtain moon energy is with a woman, and that's how you
dive
start
in that water.
You gotta get
Take a dip in
baptized,
that
baby.
pool.
You gotta get baptized.
Yeah, get baptized one time.
And then you understand what it is to go between sun and moon energy. Otherwise, you're just like burning up.
Yes.
And like, you know.
Chthonic knowledge of gestation and growth.
But
is
that
the essence of, yeah.
That phrase, sexual religion of nature, is so wild. Like, I don't know. It just makes me think of like the cycle of, the cycle of trees, and how we were just saying about like oak being the frame of civilization, and like I just had to write a bio for this chair show that I'm gonna bring one of these chairs to. And,
Nice plug, dude.
Thank you.
Finding Form built.
That's right.
Finding Form.
Desk chairs.
Finding Forrester.
And like, I was like, I was talking about how what I like about woodworking is that like it's a living material, it's alive, right? Like how this batten is moving with the seasons, and like wood never dies. It's crazy.
Right.
It never
especially
dies.
the evergreen. That's why it's the evergreen, the laurel tree. It stays even through winter.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's what you're out here. You're out here amongst mostly non-deciduous trees. And
nice.
You got pines. Yeah, you're in the pines.
Yeah, I'm in the sacred grove of the goddess Diana at Nemi.
It should be noted that this is squarely in what I always refer to as like the spiritual center of the woods. This is where we built the platform.
So what do you make of that? So what do you make of the
sexual religion of nature?
Sexual religion of nature.
I mean, the fact that he was trying to he turned her into a tree because he couldn't have her. So he turned her into something that was never going to die, or that was always going to be regenerating. But I think there's a lot of references to that and to like sex in general that like are kind of veiled or not so veiled in the cantos. But whatever, really the thing about Pound is like no matter what he says, he's like embodying one of his own ethos, which is like you have to know what you want to say and then say it, and then like that's where your surety will come from. That's where your like validity will come from.
That's what Pound said?
Something like that.
That's energy you remember from Pound.
So like certain of what he's saying.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he does have that crazy decisive energy with the ABCs of reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm spitting all the rules now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's telling you what it is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what, that should be what you go to literature for. Or any kind of reading. You should be going to church. You should be going to find out the good news, the gospel. You should be going to like learn the perspective of the person. Like the person should not be pussyfooting or jacking off or whatever. It should just be like serious.
No, I mean you don't have to tell me. I think I'm the damn king. I think I'm the priest king of the wood, but I keep getting decapitated by all these other aspiring tree kings of the wood.
But if your head grows back, that means that's your moon energy. That's your feminine.
Exactly. Everything you rip the bow off, and dude, that's literally how you got. This is a accompanying piece to my essay. But, and what do you know about Pound's life? Obviously, yeah. Or should we say, yeah, he had.
One of the most striking things I think obviously is that like he wrote the P's and Cantos while he was in a cage.
While he was caged. Was that the fascist stuff?
Yeah.
That was in Italy. He was imprisoned in Italy. And then he also was in Looney Bin for a while, right? For 12 years, 13 years at the end.
I think when he was older, yeah. Yeah.
And he grew up outside of Philly.
That's right.
And, Guy Davenport was friends with him. And I told you that whole thing about how he took a...
Really?
Yeah. Because he died in 70-something, and Guy Davenport's been writing. Guy Davenport died a few years ago.
One thing, I can't remember, Ben or
Did he die already?
That was telling us stories about, like...
He took that vow of silence at the end.
Because he was, as World War II was popping off, he was like, bring me Mussolini. Like he was really into, I don't want to say he was really into fascism.
Well, he said, Guy Davenport addresses in here. He says, well, the thing about, all he would say about it is he just is very against usury. Usury,
yeah, taxation.
And he just happened to apply it, to.
I was just reading Levi.
Pointed way.
I was just reading Levi. I just opened up the Cantos and was reading to him. And it was all about usury. It was like the part I flipped up.
Hilarious. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and then so he was also...
But he was getting, like he was a little bit, I don't know, it was kind of pretty badass that, like, the government was following him, right?
Well, that's the way I was, like, the way Davenport was saying was that, like...
Like, they went to William Carlos Williams' house, the government, FBI, spooks, and they were just like, where is he? Or, like, they wanted to know about
in,
him.
like, a Bloom sense, like, where, like, the aspect of, like, leaving your homeland, maybe literally, or self-inventing yourself.
Right.
Like, Bloom's sense is, like, every step forward in literature is, like, creating, like, a new possibility of an individual self that, like, I mean, Bloom includes, like, Yahweh and Christ as, like, the most important literary figures of, like, you know? So it's, like, in terms of, like, inventing yourself, like, you know, Joyce left Ireland and didn't come back. He was with Nora going from country to country. So, like, he says, Davenport says, like, Ezra Pound's, like, exile was, like, part of his... Because that's the thing, these cantos go through all this time. And Ezra Pound's making the case, like... I mean, he starts out, like, the Odyssey... It starts out... the first canto, which is all I can speak for, like, I've been skimming around, but it's just, like, his translation of them leaving Circe's Island on the boat from Circe's Island, and where do they have to go? They can only leave if they go to Persephone's, to the underworld, to Hades, to go see Persephone, right? So that's... going from Circe to Persephone to Penelope. These are like the three states. Circe, I mean, you over here telling me we don't gotta blow you out in the pod, but you over here talking about getting caught in what's the word I'm looking for? Where it's just real dangerous and dicey, you know.
Whirlpool.
Yeah, so you getting caught in a damn a dicey whirlpool
of
like some seductive energy.
Yeah.
You know, this is so Circe is magic and drugs and.
But it's those three goddesses, like, in a circle.
Well, but it's also in a progression, right? And also, from, again, I like to get the whole framing and understand the references, especially something that's so reference rich, like cantos. I'm reading it, I don't know who these fucking people, I know.
Because he's using, like, weird, twisted versions of names.
You think he's Dante, I know, and he's using the different names.
Yeah.
Like, that was happening to me, too, where I was like, okay, if you guys want to read and figure out who Persephone is, she's also Proserpine and Kore.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to know, like, you got to know who all the people are. But he's trying to get home, like Odysseus. He thinks he's Odysseus. He's trying to get home.
Right.
And he's in the prison in the piece, and he's like, and he thinks, you know, Persephone is the force that leads you. It's the female gender force that leads you to the light, out of the underworld to the light. Circe's the one you get stuck on, and then Penelope's the domesticated female force. That's like the wife he's trying to get home to.
Right.
That was the arc I was like working with then. Yeah. But
those are female archetypes, man.
Right, but they're also.
I think.
I mean, no, absolutely, but they're
in terms of like a man's understanding of himself and like his.
But it's also the creative force to yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Because you know, domesticating the creative force in yourself and making it communicable to the world is like you know what I'm saying? Is like, you know, you could stay in the tent for 2 weeks, and if you can't produce anything communicable, you just like Circe. You're in the Circe's Island forever. Right. You're spiraling out. If you need to
tied to the master.
Yeah, you need to produce it and make it, you know, communicable.
I think that he's also really funny. Like, a lot of the cantos are really fucking funny. But, I mean, I don't know. Because, so, you were reading Vico, right?
I was going to ask you, did you crack that at all?
A little. I flipped around, and I noticed, I guess one of the things I noticed is that it kind of was like Pound, but like way more, I mean, obviously the cantos are like the poem version, right? But like, or like that Vico is... It's like he's just, if you exploded it and made like abstract art out of it, that's almost what the cantos are like. So he's like, Pound's throwing all of these like references and historical allusions at the reader and letting them, you know, make sense of it as they, you know, what they will, like connect the dots or look up the name or whatever. But that's, all of that information is like a secondary current, right? To like the movement of the poem, and you don't really have to know what he's talking about. I mean, if you've like read Vico like you, if you're reading Guy Davenport and then you read the cantos, I'm sure you're going to have a richer experience. But when we were studying it, we did a deep dive on like 2 pages.
Yeah.
With Marjorie Welsh.
Okay,
that was like
so
an hour and a half.
It was more her, not Lerner. I'm talking about Pound.
Yeah, I mean,
Lerner's a little, Pound's a little too, you know what I'm saying, out there for.
Ben was doing the workshop,
Gotcha.
like the student work workshop.
Gotcha.
Marjorie Welsh was doing. The class was called Modernity.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
All of that stuff, all that, and then all that tangential like Mayakovsky, that Russian poet, and not the accelerationists. What the hell are they called? The futurists. All the Italian futurists.
Okay.
And like how that kind of like how much Pound loved Italian futurism.
I don't know much about that.
They were obsessed with engines, basically.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And they were just like
speed and technology and going fast.
Yeah. And how like the automobile could like multiply the reach of man.
That's insane.
Over many, many, many times. Well, imagine if you went from horses.
I know.
To horsepower.
True.
Like,
True.
like that's insane.
True.
And they were just
chariot.
Whacked out Italians on their espresso, just like being like, "This is the craziest thing ever!" Like,
sounds like me, dude.
on that Bialetti, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was in like 1912, 1913.
Okay.
I don't know when Pound was born. Maybe 1890.
Yeah. I was looking at it and it was.
Hey, so he was like a young man. This was like the hot shit happening in Europe with like Italian futurism, you know?
He's like a contemporary of Faulkner.
And then 20 years later, all of a sudden, people were calling you a fascist just because you like Italian cars.
Just like fast cars, bro. Yeah. No, the Vico stuff is interesting.
No, I've seen it because I was reading some stuff and I've seen like a lot of references between Pound and Vico.
Well, listen, like Joyce was writing Ulysses, right, which was his way of rewriting the Odyssey.
Pipe tobacco?
Yes, rewriting the Odyssey, right?
Okay.
Ulysses.
Yeah.
Is
of course
is Roman Odysseus.
Right.
So instead of the cantos and Ulysses are their versions of the Odyssey, right? Like I said,
right.
What is this? How this started out? He's trying to get home, dude.
Right.
He's been trying to get home. He's on fighting some war. Lord knows who's he's fighting.
Right.
And he's trying to get home, and he's an expat. Joyce is the same thing. It's Leopold Bloom walking around Dublin for a day, taking Odyssean journey. That's why the chapters represent each chapter in Odysseus' journey, right? The Cyclops chapter, he goes in the bar, all the Irish people, it's masculine myopia, single-minded. The Nausicaa chapter, he's jerking off on the beach watching this girl, right? But so and Joyce was obsessed with Vico. And Vico's saying, in order to understand the Odyssey, in order to understand Homer, no one back then was. I'll just try to pitch Vico to you.
Yeah. No
one back then, he's like, first of all, Vico just a legend. Dies in 1744. His whole life occupies the smallest post in Naples. Has 12 kids. He writes his epic, the first draft of it, sends it to Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton just straight ghosts him.
Sends it to Isaac Newton.
He rewrites it again. It's in the preview, in the issue that's for the final version, he's like, you guys, I'm not going to lie. It's still, I wish I could rewrite it. There's still fucked up shit in here. Like, it's not even done, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm about to die, so like, this is the final version. 1744, the new science. And he lived in Naples, and his whole thing was like, we have to come up with a new genre. You can't understand the mythical stories, the first theological poets, and the stories they created, and look at them as some like wisdom. Homer was not wise. Back then, it was literally the most savage shit ever, okay? So these are first stories. You have to...
How are these things?
Half historical, half anthropology. You have to understand what the stories and where they come from, the myths, what they have to do with what their concerns are, agriculture, how you first started deifying some god, how you first started forestalling your savage hunter-gatherer impulses and forming a marriage, forming a family, getting water, getting fire, and then contextualize the stories in that context to understand what they're about. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. Alternatively, maybe violence started because of agriculture.
No.
Like once we, no,
Absolutely not.
What? No.
Violence started because of agriculture.
war started. Maybe war started became commonplace because all of a sudden there was a shitload of resources in one place to pull up.
Oh
on.
yeah, war did.
Not violence, but like
war means
tribal warfare, which like became nation states, became world wars. Like before, you could just kind of
can't have an army.
moving.
You can't have an army.
Resource accumulation leads to war.
Right, but listen, bro. Before the beginning of civilization, of the first civilized peoples who invented their own gods, and this happened across every single nation. It went thunder. Like I get to this later in the essay, but it's like the most baseline progression is like how do. Yeah, so when they were hunter-gatherers, it was just complete havoc. Like, the forests weren't... There's just forests. It was a primeval forest. It was after the Great Flood, which is around 4,500 BC. There was a Great Flood. Then it's the descendants of Noah, Ham and Japheth. And they start these groups of people. And they're wandering around, sleeping in caves. It's just complete chaos. Like sleeping with whoever... People are dying. They're just leaving there. There's no families.
Ham was... Oh, God.
Yes.
They're descendants of Cain.
Descendants of Cain. Ham, Japheth, and Shem.
Right, and Shem. And they're like...
And they correlate to the 3 continents.
Oh, dude, I was just watching this video about, like... how one of the promises that God makes to Adam and Eve is that one of your offspring will... crush the serpent under his heel, right? Will kill evil, will kill Satan. And there's some Christians that think that it still hasn't happened yet, that like this person is still yet to be born.
Okay.
And I think that like Ham, was it Ham who like thought that I don't remember. He was bringing back a lot of stuff from Sunday school. Well, 4,000 years ago, that was like the second. That's like after the reset button was hit, right?
Mm-hmm, that's the reset.
Making me think of like the younger Dryas and all that shit.
Beginning of the world,
yeah. The second beginning.
And then 1200 is the Trojan War. But I guess he has his whole theory, and he's a little bit crazy, of course. You can use that right there. I guess the tree maiden stuff is interesting because the idea the point I was trying to make in the essay was that throughout all of time, the feminine force, was part of the religious architecture in pagan times. Basically, the most basic theory of the gods is the reason why Diana is so important, who shows up so early,
right.
is you have the heavens and you have underground. This is the most basic thing. So imagine there's a great flood and humans are looking down and they only act on their immediate impulses. They have no idea of future telling. They have no reason to do anything beyond grabbing a berry, fucking a woman, killing somebody if they're in their way, die. There's no reason to do anything.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that happens?
Or
thunder comes.
By a predator.
Yeah, exactly. Thunder comes, claps, scares the shit out of people. And they say, I didn't like that thunder and lightning. Maybe we should then to that force and tell them, and then maybe it will stop. Let's call him something. We'll call him Jupiter, And all the societies did this. And then now this is suddenly, they are humbling themselves above something else. And then they're wait, please don't do that again.
Right.
Then they follow the eagle to water sources. When you shift to agriculture, you can't be wandering constantly. You have to stay in one place.
Right.
This is how marriage started, and then they stay in one place, and they're like, these corpses are gnarly. Let's bury them. Who were they? They're our parents. Oh, then family's starting. Right? Let's bury them. This is the huge... And let's write their names down. This is the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Right? So then...
the Book of Deuteronomy, yeah.
So then...
Stud book.
Jupiter, the second deity, is Diana. She's the underworld deity. She's the goddess of springs. So basically, what you need is a water source, a natural spring coming out of the ground to stay put. What do I need to do every single day, bro? I need to go down to your fucking house.
Right.
I need to fill up my water jug. That's a sacred spring right there.
Right.
Right? So that's Diana. She's the goddess of the underworld, literally what's underground. And Persephone is an offshoot of that. She's applied to the agriculture. You pray to the agriculture goddess to come back out of the ground from Hades, right?
That comes back to like the regenerative female force.
So let me.
right?
So what I'm saying is
water never stops moving.
exactly. So what I'm saying is she's a goddess that you deify. Persephone and Demeter represent the goddess, the female archetype that you pray to for the crops to come back, right? So in the pagan, I'm gonna get to why.
It's pipe tobacco.
Yeah, shit. Struggle hours. But basically, when Christianity happened, Christianity created like a wider humanism to a lot of,
Well, it was coming from the 12 tribes, right? And those were Noah's sons.
Yes, but the point is, Christianity was a positive jump for humanity because suddenly every faction of society is included into and this idea that before that, in order to be divine, you need to do a heroic, active act of plucking the fruit, of literally the first heroic archetype is Hercules. He literally went out and raised the forest. He cut down the trees to create fields, right?
That was his first labor?
That wasn't his first labor, but that's the main labor, slaying the Nemean lion. Right?
Oh, because the lion was terrorizing everybody.
Yeah, so then,
Nice.
The point is that what Joyce is doing and what Pound is concerned with and what Dante is concerned with is at some point and of course Eve committed original sin, right? So she's like Persephone in a lot of ways, except she isn't praised when she returns from her underworld journey of getting tempted by Satan.
Right.
She is the cause of original sin, right?
Right.
Christ dying on the tree redeems Adam for plucking the apple off the tree.
Yeah.
He's going back onto the tree. This is the end of purgatory. This is the end of my essay. But Eve is still at fault, right? She has not been redeemed. In Christian, so then Dante is basically saying Beatrice, and the troubadour parts are saying Beatrice, this woman, and it's Mary Magdalene would be like the character in the Christian drama that gets kind of axed out of,
right?
That would be forgiving Eve. But Dante says Beatrice, this woman, I'm going to elevate her to a divine status. This is what troubadour poets were doing. They're like, this is like this very Christian Gnostic thing of elevating the feminine.
Right.
But Joyce and Pound were concerned with this, especially Joyce. He's like, we need to let but Beatrice is this perfect girl who died 10 years before, he died in his youth. So he can idealize her as this like perfect dead girl. As he like is beefing with his wife. She exiled him. Her family exiled him.
Damn.
Yeah, that's what happened. So he's like by himself. He's like, you know what? This fucking Beatrice, she was the fucking best though. I loved her, right? But at the time, that was insanely unmisogynistic to deify a woman like that. And you're basically bringing the pagan goddess worship back into Christology. That's why Dante's so significant. Now, what does Joyce do? Joyce says Molly Bloom, who's been cheating on Leopold Bloom, fucking this guy, cucking him.
Right.
He comes back from his long romp around town, and it's Molly Bloom's chapter. That's his Penelope waiting at home. He forgives her. Him and Nora get into all kinds of perverse acts, but he still treats her like divine. So that's why.
It's another archetype.
That's why. But it's a new archetype.
Right.
The horror is divine is a new archetype.
Right.
Right? So that's why Pound, I suspect, is concerned with this, like you say, sort of
sexual religion of nature. Yeah.
Right.
Huh.
Does that make sense? And that's the
so
question.
They're all trying to, re-understand the same kind of...
Forgive Eve.
I'm trying to Forgive Eve.
Everything's about forgiving Eve. I mean, everything's about how men and women can coexist together. That's what I say. That's what I've been ranting.
Right.
As I fail. Horribly.
Wow. You fail until you...
But fuckboy, edgeboy, this is my whole project, dude.
Right.
Like, people are so retarded, dude. They don't know anything. Anyway, that's it. That's that rant.
Is the moon actually full tonight?
It's fucking full at 1 a.m., dude.
That's like in a couple hours.
We're peaking, dude.
Yeah, that's a couple hours.
Yeah, it's an eclipse or something. Yeah. So is that relevant to anything you're thinking of? I mean, you're actually doing it. You're trying to fucking be a father.
I'm a father.
Yeah. You got any flowers?
I could get some.
Yeah, we'll take a pause.
Yeah, I mean,
What's got you psyched reading wise, or writing wise, or creatively, or in life not creatively? None of that hit for you, apparently.
No, what do you mean? Dude, you're the one that's been just balls deep in this stuff for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna give you insights on
No,
this.
but I mean, I'm interested if it's relevant or insightful to anything.
Well, no, yeah, you sent it out like a couple hours ago. I had a chance to read it.
No. I just mean that idea. Yeah.
Well, do you think that Vico is trying to like understand the same things, or is he's just like cataloging, you know?
I think Vico is definitely. I read Vico. I mean, the kind of wild element of Vico is like, it's like, you know, and I guess it is my energy. Like, I don't know where my energy falls in like ways of understanding it, but like, there's a reason why our society is abundant like it is. And these are the things our society did to get to where we are. Right?
You mean rich or populous or...
Rich.
Insanely
abundant.
Right.
With no possibility of getting invaded.
Right.
With literally, people they don't even know where the food comes from. Right? We basically have men from South America, like, growing our food, transporting it. People, you know what I'm saying? There's no harvest. There's no harvest ceremony. Right? It's like men are dumb, LOL. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, so how did we get here? Like, these are the things that people did to get to the state we're in. And of course, marriage, burial, respecting your forebears, that, you know? And then it goes from there. And
There's
these
something
practices
that,
we do.
Right.
And that's really what this whole forgiving Eve, divine, that's really what I'm saying when I'm saying forgiving Eve is,
right,
you know, the intimate, you know, relationship, that's everything. That's what we're trying to figure out how to do. If you're not trying to figure that out, figure out how we can be more evolved in that way through our literature, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Or you know, a lot of it doesn't even ask these questions. They're literally just like sending out literal bad energy that's like bad for society, you know.
A lot of people like that because it reflects their own bad energy and lack of connection to.
And I think when you're in a state of such abundance, what else do we do, you know? It doesn't really matter.
Right.
So this type of cynicism or nihilism.
Right. There's like a jokey kind of nihilism that I have encountered in like a lot of writers and like intellectuals when they sort of like celebrate their own like uselessness in the world.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's a horrible state of affairs, my dude. Like, what the fuck? Like,
I guess that's what you're on. You're like, dude, I'm focused on real aspects of the world. That's my writing.
Real aspects of the world. Yeah. Well, you should.
I'm saying that's your focus on.
I mean, you've worked on farms and shit. You know about
of course,
that.
but I'm saying I'm also like, you know, you're not like sitting here like coming up with some like sick takes for the pod. You're just like,
Yeah, but it's also taken me like years and years to even get halfway through this novel, you know? I mean, I think you gotta kind of pick... That's not true. Andrew Martin has a kid. Motherfucker writes all the time.
no, I mean,
I'm not saying I picked. It's just like... Yeah. Well, I don't know.
no.
But I do think... Well, I did think about, like, how you kind of start to understand something about being human when you're working outside, you know?
Yeah.
When you're working on a farm and, like, observing... Or whatever. Anything that lets you participate in and observe the passage of seasons and time and, like, how it affects your relationship to being outside and to thinking about literally everything. Like, if you... Whatever, this is just some, like, really jerk-offy way of saying touch grass, maybe. But, like,
Yeah.
you gotta understand that. I feel like maybe you can't understand anything that these guys are talking about if you don't have some kind of grasp.
Right.
If you haven't, like, been changed in that way. Like, when you were up in Humboldt, you know, I'm thinking about when I was farming. Shit, when we were farming in Vermont, like, yeah.
Both of these dudes, just sticking them with Joyce, and Harold's really good about that too. Like, I mean, or Milton. What shit I was telling you about Milton?
Right.
Like, and that's why this stuff of like, what, you know, they're it's just I don't think it's just so inane because
Right.
it's like, you know, they're hyper. I mean, Ezra Pound think he trying to get home. He think he is trying to get home. You know, he's like
Part of the
he's like
Cantos is
in
that...
the prison thinking
Right.
he sees Persephone out there, or
But there's
Circe
also
or
hundreds
something.
of pages
Oh,
that
yeah.
are about China
Yeah.
and that are about, like, literally about, like, U.S. senators. Like,
Crazy.
that's where, like, the usury, he's, like, naming particular senators as if we're gonna fucking know who that is in
I mean, Dante
2025.
has that circle of hell usury. Dante's so funny. Like, he has Christ come in at the end of Purgatory. He has Christ literally show up.
What? Really?
So, yeah, I mean, dude, like, he pulls up at the Garden of Eden. This is the third part. Dude, I'm promoting my own stuff. It's coming out at noon tomorrow, just like the time Christ got crucified, noon on Friday, Good Friday. Also, the time that
What kind of tree it was?
sorry,
I wonder what kind of tree it was.
which one,
The cross.
dude? Do you want me to spit a crazy bar?
Yes.
I didn't even include this in the stack because it was too much for the streets. Okay. Listen, bro. So.
I bet it was oak.
Listen, when Christ, okay, when Dante goes through hell on Good Friday, comes up, climbs the mountain of Purgatory, and Virgil's leading him, and he goes through every circle of hell, then he goes through every level of Purgatory. 7 sins, both of them are 7 sins, except in Purgatory, it's people who know they've sinned and they're trying to ascend.
Right.
In hell, it's people who are in denial, right? So the last circle of hell is Judas's circle, and Satan's there.
Right.
He confronts Satan. Then he goes up, and it's a bunch of random people. You know, some of them in his personal life, some of them historical figures.
Right.
Then at the top, Virgil lets him go. And where does he pull up to? The Garden of Eden / the meadow where Persephone got taken by Pluto. He pulls up to the Garden of Eden, and a woman is there, and she's pre-fallen Eve. And he goes, oh wow, she's so beautiful. Like, he's like, I think she's like into me. And then she's like, no, I'm not interested in you sexually. Like, he basically like reenacts being Satan, but then
Whoa.
doesn't take her, doesn't pluck from her. And then her name's Matilda, but it's really pre-fallen Eve. She leads him to Beatrice. Okay? And there's a whole Leah, Rachel thing, but I don't want to get into all that. She leads him to Beatrice. Then Beatrice, who died 10 years before in real life, in 1290. She shows up there. A huge procession comes of Christ, a bunch of people like John, like all the main, you know,
Right.
144,000, all his main followers.
Right.
James, Peter are there.
Right.
And but listen, they lead him, and Christ is a griffin. Why? Because he's half eagle, half lion, half divine, half
Earthly.
earthly.
Yeah.
He's the first incarnated human. Where do they go? They go to the tree of good and evil, but it's barren because Eve sinned, and Christ, and dude, this is 31 of Purgatory, and Christ and everyone goes, Adam, Adam. They're chanting Adam, and then they go to the one. Okay, let me do that. You're gonna because this is about wood. This is about wood. Okay, listen, bro. So then, okay, I gotta show you this part right here. Okay, listen. So the fair lady who had pulled me through the stream, that's Matilda, who is pre-fallen Eve.
Right.
And Statius, that's the poet he's with, since Virgil's gone now. And now we're following the wheel. This is chariot that's driven by this griffin, who's Christ. Following the wheel that in smaller arc had made its turn. Then passing on beneath a vaulting forest, passing through a vaulting forest, emptied through fault of her who trusted in the snake.
Mm-hmm.
We measured our steps to an angelic song. The forest, the tree, but there's no leaves on it because of Eve. We proceeded perhaps as far as an arrow, loosed 3 times from the string. When Beatrice descended from her car, I heard all of them murmuring Adam. Then they circled a tree stripped of its leaves and any other flowering on its branches. Okay, this is the tree of good and evil.
Yeah.
The higher its branches grew, the wider they are spread. Its height would cause even the Indian... Okay, some kooky line. Blessed are you, Griffin, for not plundering with your beak this tree's sweet-tasting fruit, that later wrenched bellies with its pain. Thus did those around the mighty tree cry out, and the double-natured animal, the griffin, replied, this is how the seed, only line that Christ says in the whole book, this is how the seed of justice is preserved. The seed of justice. So, the pre-fallen state is the golden age, where there's only spring.
Right.
It's just hunter-gatherer.
Right.
Once you do agriculture, you care about the seasons.
Right.
And the last goddess to leave in Ovid is Astrea, who is justice. So there's a natural justice. It's like you're saying, once you start planting, growing,
right,
making houses, cities, you're right. Man, that's why it's Jupiter. The age of Jupiter is humans taking their fate and their circumstance into their own hands. Saturn,
right,
hunter-gatherers, Saturn's the old god. You stole a couple more berries that day.
Right.
You're not rallying anybody, right? But then there's a natural justice to that. So this is how. So this is what he says. That's what he says. Then, blessed are you, Griffin. Thus did those around the mighty tree cry out, and the double-natured animal. Okay, this is how the seed of justice was. Turning to the shaft that he had pulled, the stick, the cross that he used to drive the chariot. He drew it to the foot of the widowed trunk.
The widowed trunk.
And left it bound to the tree from which it came. Left it bound. He bound. That's him going back on the cross, tying himself to the cross.
To the tree.
Listen, and then what happens? As our plants, when the great light falls on them, mingled with the light that shines in the rays that follow the celestial carp. Let me break that down. As our plants, when the great light, the sun, falls on them, mingled with the light that shines in the rays that follow the celestial carp. The celestial carp is the season of Pisces.
Okay.
The rays that follow Pisces is now Aries.
Right.
We're going to that's the spring. This is his way of saying, when the spring comes, what do the plants do? Begin to swell their buds and are renewed, each in its proper color, before the sun hitches his steeds to other stars. Before the sun goes out of springtime, what happens? So taking on a hue less red than roses, yet deeper than violets, the tree of good and evil that's barren now renewed itself where its branches just before had been so bare. Christ ties himself to the cross. And listen to this, though.
Right.
What's that wood? This is literally the craziest bar of all time, bro. Like, I literally stopped. I was like, the streets are not ready for this, dude. They are not ready for this. I'll say, dude, okay, listen. Okay, basically, in the Gospel of Nicodemus, it says that Christ... this is 33. You know about the Gospel of Nicodemus? The Apocryphal Gospel? That basically narrates everything that happens to Christ after he was crucified, between when he was crucified and Easter Sunday.
Okay.
And he meets everybody. It's just like Dante. He goes into hell.
And you just meet
through
the whole chronology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an apocryphal gospel. So in the Gospel of Nicodemus, okay, listen. This is literally so crazy. Okay, so basically, the 14th chapter of the apocryphal Gospel of Nicodemus. In it, Adam's non-canonical son Seth visits the gates of the Garden of Eden, now a wasteland, in search of some oil to ease Adam's aching head. He's old as fuck. He's like 4,000 years old, right? Because he's been in limbo for nearly 5,000 years.
Oh my God.
Right? This is after Christ.
Right.
Seth is not allowed to enter by the guardian, or right before Christ. Seth is not allowed to enter by the guardian angel, but does see a very tall tree denuded of its leaves. The angel gives him a branch from the tree. It is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He gives him a branch, which he at length brings back to Adam. But he has died before Seth returned to limbo with the branch. Planted, it soon supplied the wood that would serve for the crucifixion of Jesus.
What the hell?
It's the same wood. For a brief discussion of the legend of the wood of the cross. I mean, this is symbolic, bro. This
Dying
is
for
symbolic.
the... I mean, that's... Yeah, there it is.
And then basically it says right here, yeah, so that's a 1.5 speed, that's a 90-minute podcast, the Gospel of Nicodemus, if you want to listen to it on YouTube.
Damn.
And it's like, it's everything that happened, because Nicodemus is the guy who talks to him at night.
Right.
And this is where Dante got his idea, right? What happened between Good Friday and Easter Sunday? This is all the Inferno, that's when it's set. Him going through hell with Virgil, coming back up.
That's where you got the idea?
Yeah. And Aeneid, book 6.
Right.
Aeneas has to do that on his way home. And Odysseus. Book 11. Circe sends him to go to Persephone in the underworld. He has to go to hell. He meets everybody down there. Hercules coming back up. This is a harrowing of hell. Right? That's the root of it.
Okay.
Death and resurrection. That's why Persephone is so interesting, because she's a female iteration of it. She got taken down into hell and then comes up in spring. Right?
Okay, alright. So...
Put that in your pipe and smoke it, man. Put that in your pipe, tobacco, and smoke it. How crazy is that, though? The tree, the same wood?
That's amazing. That's
Isn't that amazing?
fucking wild.
Blew my
I
mind.
still need to know what it was, though.
Yeah, exactly. What was it? Yo, I'm trying to make some tables out of it, dude. What's this right here? What's this?
Oak. That's walnut.
Walnut.
This
dude.
is mahogany. This is cherry. We got ash over there.
Nice.
Yeah, we're burning some ash right now.
Wait, dude. That actually matters in the golden bow.
The ash tree?
They're talking to the type of wood.
Oh, okay.
I didn't make that jump, dude. I mean, it's gonna be serious, dude. Once I write my Hento piece, once I write my pound piece, once I read the pound.
We've got to do like a species of wood. Species of wood piece.
No, that's what I'm saying. Exactly.
No, alright, I mean a lot in that. Like,
Yeah. Hit me with anything.
Well, yeah, regeneration, right? Like, I don't know. Like, why did God let the serpent tempt us?
Because
What lesson was trying to be taught, and is that lesson just sort of being attempted to be learned by us over and over and over and over again? Maybe, but like all that stuff you were saying about the wood and about like the females turning into trees and Eve being the one that was like, yeah, there's just a lot there.
I think it's like this. I think it's like the plucking of the tree, the plucking of the corn, the plucking of the corn maiden, and sending her underground for the fall and winter, for her to come back up in the spring.
Right.
This is humans using our ability to manipulate, to be semi-godlike. This is the age of Jupiter. This is the inevitable evolution of humans. We can
Create.
to take and create. Of course, with that comes everything else.
Cultivate.
Yeah, to cultivate.
Yeah.
And of course, it gets more and more intense. Christ's insane act, his new archetype, his invention of a new human, as Bloom would say, in the trajectory between Yahweh, Christ, Hamlet, and Walt Whitman, his 4 canonical huge steps in evolution of Western literature, is that, listen, every heroic archetype emerged from doing the courageous act and taking that helped the group, right?
Yeah.
Christ.
Well, was that
bound-
Eve's heroic act, taking? I mean,
Satan took her.
yeah.
Adam slipped up. No. But Adam's forgiven. Adam's forgiven because he didn't listen. Yeah. But you can't stay in. I don't spend that much time. I think that the problem is blaming it all on Eve.
Right.
And that's what I would make the case where, like, what are the books that continue this question? It's Ulysses, like I said.
Yeah.
A new type of forgiveness. In some ways, Caddy in Sound of the Fury
Right.
is this, right? Who she escaped, or her offspring escapes at the end. Right?
Caddy smelled like trees.
Caddy smelled like tree. And then I'd say 2666 is a harrowing look at a culture that hasn't forgiven Eve.
Yeah.
What do they do? And they only take, dude.
Yeah.
Look what happened. Ain't no one even fucking caring about these deaths. So, but what is it? So Christ is the archetype of someone who puts himself back on. He takes the L for everybody. This is like, why would any self-serving human in Rome with like a 1-to-6 like non-slave to slave ratio have an idea to act like that? Right? I think that's what it is, and that redeems it. But then the full story in me and Harold's like apocryphal fucking gospel like quest is that he also forgave Mary Magdalene for being a prostitute her whole life, and Judas got really mad, and he was the Pluto, the Satan. He turned on Christ, but that gets wiped out. You know, that's a secret thing, that he forgave Mary Magdalene, so he forgave the most depraved Eve, like cheating ass.
Right.
You know. So like, but then, you know, we you know, you talk all you want about this, but how this applies to your real life. There's a whole different other practice, and I think that's the.
I mean, I wouldn't say that every man has a set of relationships, you know, both past and present, that can be typified by, you know, the underground, or like, what are the three you were talking about at the beginning?
Circe, Persephone, I said Eve, but Penelope would be the Odyssean journey.
So the domesticated, Circe,
But I think Eve is all of them.
Right.
Because in the second part, you'll see, there's parts where she's Persephone, there's parts where she's Circe, and the dull beasts just look at her with lust. Right. You know?
Right.
Milton literally makes it. And then, you know, and then there are parts where she's like, Adam, I missed you, I loved you. So I think the challenge of any type of, it's funny I'm talking about marriage like I fucking know, but, you know, but the challenge of, I mean, that's why it's primordial. That's why, what's like every Andrew Martin book about? What's every Sally Rooney book about? It's about love, getting in the mix. You know, that's why, because it's like,
oh, that's what people want to read about for good reason, you know.
The lizard brains want to.
Yeah.
You know?